Alright, well, third time is the charm. Today, we'll be going over, does gaming have an overall negative effect on today's youth? Currently, there is a huge split that has been up and coming in our country. My generation, Generation Z, are becoming adults. Some of us already have, but the last of us are finally reaching that age. We are a generation that has had technology ingrained into our daily lives since we were born. Unlike our parents, the millennials, who have lived at the beginning of the modern technological booms and did not get to experience some of the early technology, or did not get to experience technology during their childhood due to it being less available. However, since then, technology has had a larger impact on everyone's daily lives, whether it's communication, information gathering, entertainment. However, one of these categories has been attacked a lot more than the others, and that is entertainment, but to a lesser extent, or to a greater extent, gaming. Video games are everywhere. It's on your phone, your laptop, on your computer, library computers, at home, on the bus, in the car, at school, even in the bathroom. The memes become so massive in such a short amount of time when it was created 61 years ago. Today in the United States, 91% of children between the ages of 2 to 17 play video games. And a national representative study found that U.S. teenagers, that 99% of boys and 94% of girls play these games. Um, this is to almost an hour a day, or 6 hours a week, that is spent on playing video games instead of increasing one's skill in a specific subject or studying. However, video games have become an important part in the balance of work and leisure in people's daily lives. Not only that, video games can increase certain skills for people depending on what games they play. So, for me personally, I play League of Legends. This game I have amassed over 5,000 hours in the 5 years that I've been playing it now. Roughly 1,000 hours per year, and this is an insane amount of time. I don't recommend it to anyone, or I don't recommend playing video games that long to anyone. I'm just saying to make a statement on how much I love video games, and to a lesser extent, League of Legends. One of the main skills that you're going to need in League of Legends is a good memory. With there being 144 champions, each with 4 abilities and a passive ability, roughly 200 items, and 63 runes that you would have to memorize and be able to call to in a short amount of time between a game, is insanely skillful. It takes an absolute massive amount of memory and time in order to memorize all that stuff, but more importantly, being able to grab that information quickly and efficiently in your head while you're playing the game is even more important. Besides memory, you need another basic skill for gaming, which is reaction time. While reaction time is very basic, it's very important for you to play the game to its maximum potential as a good player. For example, having a better reaction time than your opponent will lead you to be able to dodge their abilities and them not to be able to dodge yours as much. While dodging abilities sounds really easy, it's very hard since you usually have less than a second before a skill can hit you. Besides these basic skills that sound important to every other video game, I'm going to say another one that is also used in every other video game. Freaking creativity. Or, creativity. Being creative is important in creating strategies and having fun with the game, like League of Legends. Since you would need to be able to think of which runes, which champions, and which items can most improve your chances of winning. From a scientific standpoint, unlike first-person shooters, FPS games, where target speed and target accuracy are priority, multiplayer online battle arenas, MOBAs, which League happens to be one, rely more on memory than ability to make strategic decisions, taking out into multiple factors. Said Athanasios, Athanasios Kakinakis. By the way, I don't know how to say that name at all. I'll put it on screen. You take your turn and try to say it. Alright? But this was the study's lead author, and the study was done in 2017 to check for a correlation between IQ and league ranks. He says that it's perhaps for these reasons, the ability to make take account multiple factors and decisions and having a good memory, that we found a strong correlation between the skill and intelligence in MOBAs. By this he means that this is why higher ranked people in MOBA games will often have higher IQs to go with it, because the amount of skill and memory in this game can be applied to general IQ, which means you're smarter. But the overall conclusion lets us believe that people with higher IQ will also get higher ranked, or the other way around, people with higher rank will have higher IQs. I believe that both affect each other. So if you're smart, you'll be good at the game, but if you're good at the game, it'll also make you smarter. Well, not necessarily. Being good at the game will increase your chances of being smarter if you apply that to real life. However, for a more general personal experience, I'm not going to speak just in League terms because that can get confusing since League is a very difficult game. And yeah, I showed you all the numbers, or I didn't show you all the numbers, but I showed you what the skill cap in League is like. But for me, video games are a personal way for me to escape through the frustrations of life. Whether I've had a rough day and don't feel like interacting with anyone, and just playing a game of solo Minecraft, or if I felt like I failed something and I need to do something I'm good at and play a game of League of Legends, or if I just wanted to sit down and tame all the dinosaurs that are in our survival, then I could do that. Video games have become readily available for me and allow me to easily vent my frustration and don't require me to seek help from other people. But, however, gaming usually has a negative outlook, whether it's the press, parents, or teachers. The press regularly posts out urgent warnings against the perils of addiction to video games and their inevitable link to violence and aggression, especially in children, adolescents. But the mass majority of psychological research on the effects of gaming has also been focused mainly on negative impact, the potential harm related to aggression, addiction, and depression. An example of this is when the media source states school shooters and other violent young people as people who've played violent video games and become violent because of it. While this makes sense, that since playing video games would expose or would tend to increase the level of aggressive behavior, it would also result in more lethal violence and other criminal behaviors, but there's no clear evidence to support that assumption. However, I believe that if this is true, then reading violent books or watching violent movies would also increase your violence levels, since both gaming and those other media forms would expose you to violence. I do understand, though, that video games, you are making decisions, so therefore it might be more personal and it would make you more likely to be violent since you are doing the decision making, compared to a book where you don't really have a choice of what the character does or where he wants to go. Along with the generalization of video games violence in video games causing violence in real life, just adds to the stack of other things that the press has used against us. But parents and teachers have seen video games or video game players as people who waste their time playing video games instead of working on other skills. Peers have seen people who play video games as people with no social life, who are bad at communicating with other people or just talking in general. And all these things just add up and create a negative feeling about video games in our society. But nothing is completely good. Nothing is perfect. Video games have a lot of side effects that are overall bad for your health, especially when played in excess. To give you an example of this, I watched a video a while ago, similar to this topic. It talks mainly about Call of Duty, but it can apply to gaming as a general facet.
Unlike other artistic mediums, we know that games have a significant and measurable effect on our neurology, and researchers have found starkly different changes to the brain depending on what kind of game was being played. Often these changes are very positive, and in fact COD has been observed to help boost memory, creativity, and problem solving. But there are negative effects as well, as I've discussed at length in previous videos. Dopamine feedback loops, dampen amygdala activity affecting our emotional regulation, and atrophy of the hippocampus hampering our spatial navigation, all three of which are associated with COD as well. People often get bogged down in an argument about whether gaming is good or bad for you, but it's a silly discussion. It's like asking if food is good or bad for you. The reality is there's healthy food and junk food, and a spectrum in between. Some foods are debatable. Is fat good or bad? Protein builds muscles, but it's also bad for your heart. And often, foods that are good for some would be bad for others. The NFL player needs a very different kind of diet than his grandma does. Even among professional physicians and dietitians, there's constant vigorous debate and analysis about what foods are healthy, for whom, and in what quantity. Should this same debate be taking place in the games industry?
These are all bad effects that can have massive changes on how your brain works, but also on how your brain grows and develops. However, after watching Call of Duty is bad for you, the video that you were watching beforehand, he also raises another interesting point, and I'm sorry that I'm borrowing a lot from him, but he makes things really digestible and has some really good footage, and I feel like I can just cut from it and then comment on it.
Goes on to praise Call of Duty for doing what he calls smart business by compressing the skill gap with, and I quote, a whole bunch of randomness, a whole bunch of weaponry that doesn't require any skill to get kills. Random spawns, massive cone fire on your weapons, lots of devices that can get kills with zero skills at all. And that watching them play, he feels they're poor FPS players, saying, and I quote, it's not that they're incapable of getting good, it's that they've never had to. They get enough kills in Call of Duty to feel like they're awesome, but they never really had to develop their FPS skills beyond that. These complaints were echoed by other shooter developers who openly mocked COD for its simplicity and hand-holding in promos that went viral online. What is Gibson describing here if not a game that hands out participation trophy kills? A game that has hindered players' growth by shielding them from adversity. We know that a little over half of all gamers fall in the millennial age range, and that percentage rises dramatically if you don't count mobile gaming, suggesting significant overlap between millennials and COD's fanbase. And obviously Gibson, a Gen Xer, isn't referring to his own generation as being ruined. And so, without meaning to, and years before other researchers had discovered the trend, did a fucking game developer basically synthesize the chief sociological issues afflicting millennials that economists, social scientists, and US senators are only just freaking out about today? But what if he had it backwards? What if Call of Duty didn't ruin a generation of gamers, but simply catered to and profited off of a malfunction that was already there? It's not that crazy when you think about it, that our in-game behavior may be reflective of our real-life attitudes. What if COD's success and this phenomenon Gibson has observed are only symptomatic of the much larger endemic problem among today's youth? Indeed, instead of ruining, what if Call of Duty, in its ham-fisted pandering, has imported the maturity crisis to the gaming industry? And worst of all, what if in churning out these kinds of products to hundreds of millions of youth over the last 15 years, Call of Duty has in fact exacerbated the ongoing real-world maturity crisis, in the same way McDonald's exacerbates the obesity epidemic? Do you see what I'm getting at here? What if Call of Duty is to blame for my breakup? I'm an idiot. The researchers studying the real-world maturity crisis often conclude that the problem is in our brains, both psychological and neurological, the result of years of conditioning by our environment growing up. What if Call of Duty, by mimicking the real-world conditions that contributed to this problem, intentionally or otherwise, has itself become a part of that environment, conditioning us in those same unhealthy ways that stunt our growth? Because what is traditional Call of Duty multiplayer, if not an overprotective parent that goes out of its way to shield its players from any negative stimuli? No respawn times, death streaks, SBMM, which was fair in the same way it'd be fair to let a varsity football player play on the freshman team just to have a chance at starting. A game that's business model relies predominantly on making sure that everyone gets some kills. Zero recoil, no bullet drop or delay. A game which introduced us to the noob tube.
So the ideas that he raised in the video, the idea that parents have created us this way, have sheltered us from the idea of losing and made us feel like we are entitled to things. It's not too far-fetched, or at least it is for me, because I feel that everyone being a winner is a phrase that has been constantly ingrained into my head by teachers and my parents whenever I would lose something. But there's no way to give a conclusive answer on whether this is true or not. This being whether or not it's video games that cause people to lose their motivation to face hardships through dopamine feedback loops, or whether it was their parents who made us like this and that we're too soft on us about losing and saying everyone deserves a winner, or giving out participation medals to everybody. May have caused us to be like this. However, my thoughts on fixing this problem are to address both sides separately, and see which one comes out with better results. And what I mean by this is trying to create a more competitive environment for young children, while also for another test group, not letting them play video games that have very low challenge and easy to complete, or will feed these dopamine feedback loops. Like all things, video games have trade-offs, both benefits and deficits. I believe that in the school environment, video games have an overall positive effect, when played in moderation at least. They can increase attention span, help with social interaction and skill, and even help with strategy and overall creativity in students. On the other hand, students may become addicted to video games and lack in homework. Students also may become unmotivated during hardships since the dopamine feedback loops may reinforce their reduced drive to face hardships. Personally, I'm willing to take the side of gaming because it also serves as a de-stressor for me, which makes it a clear win. But for each person, they may see a negative as something way worse than what I may believe, and vice versa. But I believe to each their own. And yeah, thank you for watching the video all the way through. This has been a lot more talking than I've ever done for any Warrior Wake Up. So please be sure to leave a like if you thought the video was good. Leave a dislike if you thought the video was bad. And I don't recommend subscribing to this channel because I doubt I'll be posting on here anymore. And if you subscribe to my main channel, I'm even worse than the Warrior Wake Ups on there. But yeah, though, I hope you have a good rest of your day. And by the way, this is take 3. So I've been talking for about 3 times the length of this video. Anyways, see ya.